My mom was my everything. And when cancer took her, she left me with memories and a lifeline, a trust fund meant for my future. When my dad greedily started using it for his stepdaughter, it felt like he was erasing mom's memory piece by piece. I couldn't let him take what was left of her or me. There's something about losing someone you love, you carry the weight of it forever, even if it doesn't show. I lost my mom to breast cancer when I was 9. One day, she was there, brushing my hair and humming to some old rock song. And the next, she was gone, just like that. I remember our last conversation like it was yesterday. She was sitting on her hospital bed, her fingers weakly running through my hair. "Promise me something, baby boy," she whispered. "Anything, Mom," I said, trying to hold back my tears. "Promise me you'll never let anyone dim your light. You're so special, Ethan. So incredibly special." She didn't leave me with much, just a few photos, the smell of her favorite vanilla perfume lingering on her scarves, and a trust fund she set up for me before she passed. "This is for Ethan," she'd told my dad and my grandparents, "for his education and his future. Promise me he'll always have it." They promised. My dad promised too. But promises don't mean much when someone's not around to hold you to them. My dad remarried 3 years later. His new wife, Laura, came with her own baggage, a 13-year-old daughter named Chloe. At first, I didn't mind. Mom was gone, and I thought maybe this could be a new chapter. But I quickly learned how things would work in our house. Chloe first, Laura second, Dad somewhere in the mix, and me? Not even in the picture. It started small. Once, our fridge and shower broke at the same time. Dad took money from the trust fund without my permission to fix them. "I'll pay it back," he said, like it was no big deal. A week later, he bought Chloe a MacBook for her birthday. On mine, a $100 gift card. It wasn't the money, it was the message. Over the years, he kept dipping into the fund for car repairs, home renovations, and things that had nothing to do with me. "It's just temporary," he'd always say. But the withdrawals kept piling up, and the temporary excuses were thin. By the time I got to college, I didn't need the money for tuition because of my scholarship. That didn't stop him from finding new ways to use it, though. Every time I brought it up, he brushed me off. "Don't stress, Ethan. It's safe." Safe. Right. You understand, don't you, Ethan? That's what he'd always say when something I needed got pushed aside for. Chloe, new clothes for her pageant? Sure. My vacation? Maybe next year. It stung, but I swallowed it down. But the swallowing got harder. I'll never forget the day I realized how much of Mom's trust fund was gone. It was late one night during my final year of college. I overheard Chloe talking to her friends about how Dad was covering the cost of her new car. My stomach twisted as I thought about the fund. "Can you believe it?" Chloe squealed through the thin walls. "A brand new BMW. Dad said I deserve it for making it to nationals." My hands trembled as I sat at my desk, memories of Mom's words echoing in my head. "This is for Ethan, for his future." It had been years since I'd seen the account. My dad had told me not to stress over it. But now, something felt off, and I decided to check it. I logged into the account, and my heart sank. The numbers didn't make sense. Thousands were missing. Pageant effies, a water heater, Chloe's car. Every withdrawal was like a punch in the gut. By the time I closed my laptop, my hands were shaking. This wasn't just money. It was Mom's legacy. She'd trusted Dad to protect it, and he'd drained it like it was his personal wallet. I called my grandma the next morning. "Sweetheart," she said after I told her everything, "this has gone on long enough. You have to stand up to him." "I can't breathe, Grandma," I sobbed into the phone. "It feels like he's erasing Mom piece by piece. Like he's erasing me." "Oh, my sweet boy," Grandma whispered. "Your mother would be furious right now. She fought so hard to make sure you'd be taken care of." "I know." I cried, my throat tight. I trusted when he said he'd put the money back. But he's only been draining Mom's hard-earned money. "Your mother was a fighter," Grandma added. "And so are you. It's time to show them that." "I will when the right time comes," I said, my heart heavy as I hung up. It all came to a head a week later. Graduation was around the corner, and I was finally ready to celebrate after 4 years of sleepless nights and busted printer deadlines. I called Dad and told him I was graduating on December 20th. I could hear the pause on the other end of the line, long enough for my stomach to drop. "Oh, December 20th, he said finally. "That's when Chloe's pageant is." We've already made plans. You're missing my graduation for a pageant? Oh, come on, Ethan. Graduation's not a big deal. You'll have more of those. But this pageant? It's her chance to shine. I didn't even realize. I was gripping my phone so hard until my fingers started to hurt. You're kidding, right? I heard Laura chime in, her tone dripping with condescension from the background. Don't be selfish, Ethan. Graduations happen all the time. Chloe's pageant is once in a lifetime. Selfish? I spat. Dad, this isn't about being selfish. This is about you choosing Chloe over me. Again. That's not fair, he protested. Not fair? You want to talk about fair? When was the last time you chose me? When was the last time you even saw me? Of course I see you, Ethan. No, you don't. The words burst out of me like a dam breaking. You see Chloe. You see her pageants and her dance, recitals and her everything. But me? I'm just a ghost in the corner. Mom's leftover that you don't know what to do with. Ethan, that's enough. No, it's not enough. It's never been enough. I cried, years of hurt pouring out. Do you know what Mom's last words to me were? She made me promise not to let anyone dim my light. But you've been doing exactly that for years, Dad. Years. He sighed like I was being unreasonable. We'll celebrate when we're back. I promise. The word promise hit me like a slap. Your promises don't mean anything anymore, I whispered. They haven't since Mom died. I hung up without saying goodbye. My grandparents at least showed up for my graduation. Seeing their proud faces in the crowd made the day feel a little less lonely. They hugged me so tightly afterward, reminding me that someone still cared. I was happy, but I had one last thing to do. The next day, I walked into Dad's office with the account statements in hand. My stomach was doing backflips, but I couldn't let that stop me. We need to talk, I said, shutting the door behind me and dropping the papers on his desk. Dad looked up from his computer, frowning. What's this? The trust fund statement. Mom's trust fund. The one you've been draining for years. His face paled, but he tried to play it off. Ethan, come on. Everything I've spent was for the family. You've never needed it. You had a scholarship. That money wasn't for the family, I cut in. It was for me. For my future. And you spent it on Chloe. Don't even try to deny it. The statements don't lie. You don't understand what it's like. Dad stood up, his voice rising. Being a father, trying to blend to families, and you don't understand what it's like watching your father erase every trace of your mother. I shot back. That money was the last thing she could give me, and you treated it like your personal ATM. He leaned back in his chair, his jaw tightening. I did what I had to do. No, I said, standing my ground. You did what was convenient for you, and now you're going to pay it back. Every penny. His laugh was bitter. And if I don't, then I'll sue you. The room went silent. For the first time in my life, I saw real fear in his eyes. You wouldn't, he said finally. Mom always said I had her backbone, I replied. Maybe it's time you remembered that. The fallout was as messy as I expected. My stepmom, Laura, and stepsister, Chloe, called me, yelling through the phone. How could you do this, Ethan? Laura's voice was shrill, like I had personally burned their house down. Do what? I said, gripping my phone tighter. Stand up for myself. Demand the respect I've never gotten from you people. Don't make this about you, she snapped. You're punishing us because we couldn't be into places at once. You know how much Chloe's pageant meant to her, and my graduation didn't mean anything to you, I fired back. I've had enough, Laura. I'm done. How dare you? After everything we've done for you. Done for me? I laughed hollowly. What exactly have you done except try to replace everything about Mom? I tried to be a mother to you. No. I snapped. You tried to erase my mother. There's a difference. She called me a selfish brat, but I didn't back down. Under US law, she and Dad had no leg to stand on. My grandparents helped me draft the legal documents, and by the time I handed them over, Dad knew he was out of options. A month later, the money was back in my account. They'd taken out loans to do it, but that wasn't my problem. I moved out the next week and settled into my grandparents' house in Seattle. It felt good to be somewhere warm and safe for once. You've always been stronger than you think, Ethan, Grandma said one night as we sat on the porch. She wrapped her cardigan around my shoulders, and it smelled like Mom's vanilla perfume. I didn't feel strong, I admitted, staring at the stars. I just felt angry. Sometimes anger is what we need to get moving, she said with a smile. Your mother, she knew this might happen. You know, that's why she made us promise to watch over you. She did? Oh yes, she said. My Ethan might bend, but he'll never break. She knew exactly who you were, sweetheart. I handed her a check the next day, a portion of the repaid money. She tried to refuse it, but I insisted. You and Grandpa have done more for me than anyone else ever has. Please, let me do this. She hugged me so tightly that I thought I might break. We're so proud of you. And your mom. Oh, she would be over the moon. With the rest of the money, I enrolled in grad school and got my own apartment. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. One night, as I unpacked some boxes, I came across an old photo of Mom and me. She was holding me in her lap, her smile soft and warm. I did it, Mom, I whispered, running my fingers over the photo. I kept my promise. I didn't let them dim my light. My phone buzzed with a message from Dad, but I didn't open it. Instead, I texted Grandma. I think I'm finally free. Her reply was immediate. You are, sweetheart. You are. Your mother is probably dancing in heaven right now. I set the phone aside and smiled, my eyes misty. For the first time in years, I felt like I was finally living for me. Living how Mom had always wanted me to. Bright and unafraid.